Welcome to Awakening Perspectives with Laura and Liesl Claire.
Welcome to Awakening Perspectives with Liesl Claire and
Laura Massey.
It's nice to see you guys here this afternoon. We are actually here going to be talking, our topic is about learning from our fear and learning to grow through our fear, because this happens to be a lot of things going on right now in the world that is propagating fear. And we just thought it would be good to help show people how we've been working through fear, how fear biologically affects you, and how fear can actually be used as a tool to propel you forward. So you can, to not necessarily be afraid of fear, but to use it for your betterment.
And how to face the challenges that the fear could be coming from,
Yes.
And how we can better deal with our understanding of it, and where is it coming from? Is it really this out here, or is it really something going on inside that we're not dealing with?
Perfect. Exactly. That's exactly it. We also are going to have a guest speaker. His name is Emmanuel. He is a energy healer, Reiki energy healer, and a psychic reader. He is actually out of Palm Springs, but he's got some pretty good insight and intuition and can share his experiences with having to deal with fear as well.
I'm excited.
Me too.
Hi, Laura. Hi, Liesl.
Hi. So today our topic is talking about fear. And I know right now we're going through an awful lot with everything else that's going on in the world today. There's a lot of fear, people getting stuck in fear, people who are propagating fear. Mm-hmm. And that I think it's right now is the prime opportunity for us to be able to work through those fears. And in fact, that's part of our awakening process, is to work through those emotions and to recognize them for what they are. Because they don't have to be the big, ugly thing that a lot of people have made them out to be. So like right now, I've been noticing that a lot of people are afraid of their well-being. They're a lot afraid for their health. I've even dealt with health issues myself and have had to deal with fear of health. Although I've realized that in my dealing with my health situations, that my fear was more of being healthy because of other people expecting more of me if I was healthy than if I was sick. So dealing with, once we can get to the point where we can recognize fear controlling us or really limiting us from being able to experience everything that we can experience in our life, then we can start to learn how to empower ourselves. So I kind of want to go through some scenarios each of us have had where we've been able to do that, where we can get to the point where, before we would be stuck in it, we then have a realization of this fear is controlling us. How did we go through it and actually grow from it is what I'm looking for. Who would like to go first?
I don't care. I'll go first. Okay, so at first, with this whole thing, I was very fearful. I was getting upset with my husband, saying, why are you working? You're going to cause me to get sick, and I have bad lungs and blah 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 because I have asthma, whatnot. And I was very upset about it. And he was like, okay, whatever. Then they realized, the governor went on and said, okay, you can't, unless you're an essential worker, you can't work, blah, blah, blah. So he stopped working. And, he was getting upset and he thought, oh, martial law. I mean, there was just so much fear going on. And I finally said, this has got to stop, because I was getting butterflies in my stomach. I couldn't sleep. And I know when I have a lot of fear and anxiety, I start having aches and pains in my body. And so I said, you know what, we're all making it bigger than it needs to be right now. We just need to focus on what are we going to do now. And there was a lot of fear. My husband had fear because this is out of the ordinary. He works every day. Here he's not working. He's got people calling him saying, hey, are you going to go to work? He's all, dude, are you in La La Land? We're supposed to be staying home, you know? And so there was a lot of things going on where people were not accepting it. And then he was getting anxious because he wanted to be out there working and everybody else is working. Why can't he work? You know? And it was just, you know, and I was getting, you know, I was confused about all that. Then I realized that we started going for walks a little bit more every day, and we're close to nature. So we'd walk in nature and we'd stop every time we go walking, we stop somewhere and we meditate. We just kind of breathe in everything and just meditate. And through this, he's been able to, it's been over 45 days since he's been home, and he's been able to see things differently. His whole attitude and outlook has changed. He, you know, same with me. It's like, I don't feel so fearful. I know that I'm strong. I know that I'll get through this. I know that it's the media that kind of portrays a lot more fear there. You know, I was so fearful. I'm like, is there anybody recovering from this? Because there was no news, not even on the internet, about people recovering and getting over it. It was all about just people dying, and more people were getting sick. Then finally, you know, I think I went on a private browser or private tab, and there was stuff about people recovering and how many people recovered and all this. I'm like, oh, okay, that's great. But it's just certain powers are controlling what they want people to feel also. So don't buy into that, people. Just don't buy into it. We're going to get through this. And the more you fear that you're going to get it, you're going to get it, because you draw it to you. You want to have the law of attraction on your side and just say, you know what, I'm going to get through this. This is not going to happen. And I personally believe that some of us already have had it. I mean, last year, there were some times that the new symptoms they posted the other day, the chills, the shaking, the sore throat. I had all that in October.
I did too, and that's what I think. It's funny how you really picked up on the fact that when you really live in that fear, that all of a sudden you get those body aches. The biology of being in fear is your body then goes into a fight, flight, or freeze response, and then it puts all your adrenaline into, and all your functions go from being able to process the food you ate or to rest to survival mechanisms. Mm-hmm. And then that also pumps your bone marrow starts making tons of white blood cells because it knows it's going to be needing to be there in order to take care of you during this time of stress, because that's what white blood cells are for, to help keep your immune system high. But when you're operating in fear for so long like that, that's what I realized with me, was that because of the stress, that's why my white blood cell counts were becoming higher. That's why my lymphs are not processing right, because my body was not being able to go into that parasympathetic state to be able to decompress, relax, and gain the information that I get from my higher self. Because at that point, when you're in that fight, flight, or freeze response, you're activating and working off of what's called the reptilian brain.
Yeah, that's true. And what you're doing is your body doesn't know the difference of if you have it or not, but you will create symptoms. Like, I remember one time I was supposed to go camping or something, and I felt weird because I've never gone camping without my family. It was with a group. And I was so afraid. I was younger, and I kept saying, oh, I don't feel good. And I don't feel good. All of a sudden, I ended up getting a fever. I caused myself to get a fever, and then they drove me home. And it worked out the way I wanted it to. But you can make yourself sick by worrying that much. And your body doesn't know any difference. If that's what you're thinking, it thinks that you're sick. If you think you're sick, then you're sick. You're going to be sick. We have to get out of that mode of that. People don't realize how strong their energy is and how, powerful they are. People just do not realize the power that they have, and they seem to have, lost it, or we have been shown or taught. We have been taught fear. We're born out of love, and we're taught fear. We're taught fear by our family and the people around us. It's not purposely. It's just that's how people on this planet in the 3D mode work. But I mean, that's my theory on that.
Well, go ahead, Emmanuel. You look like you
I
have
was
something
gonna say.
Yeah.
Hi, everyone. It's not lighting up. Oh, there it goes. Okay. So I had a very recent experience where I was feeling good and I wanted to exercise, and I pushed myself really hard. I did this exercise in the apartment, and then it was 97 degrees, and I decided to push myself and go out walking for an hour in the heat and all around. And at the time, it felt good, but after I did my meditation, I went to sleep. I woke up and my left tonsil was swollen, almost like when I've had a strep throat before or something that really hurt. And I immediately went into a panic and fear. And but fortunately, with being a spiritual healer, and I've always had that in my head, healer, heal thyself. I immediately grabbed my amethyst and I started to do some self work, and then it was still hurting. It was a little bit better. It was still hurting. I decided, okay, I'm gonna, make some coffee, which has turmeric, but I'm gonna start making my breakfast, and it wasn't necessarily fully, still hurting. It was still kind of there, and so then I put Star Trek on, which Star Trek actually, anything sci-fi helps me
Get your mind out of that, yeah.
Yeah, and it helps me relax. It helps me see a positive future. It helped, all that stuff is really important to me. So, and diversity, infinite diversity. And so I took all the amethysts that I had, and I held them and was focusing my energy while I was watching. And then I had a deep emotional release, and it still has to do with my mom and dad passing, and it still has to do with other stuff. But it probably took me 2 hours of focused energy, and it lifted, and it finally went away, and I swallowed okay, and it felt good, and I wasn't, but I mean, if I had panicked, if I had gone, through the whole thing.
Yeah, exactly. You would have drawn all kinds of stuff to you, because
exactly
that happened to me. We started walking, and my son even had this. I started having this thing, and I don't know if you've had that, where you breathe in and it like hurts your throat and your chest. Yes. Like, why does it hurt? I had it for 2 days, and I'm like, what the hell is going on here? And I started freaking out. But then I thought, you know what? I'm going to get it back. I said, I deserve to be healthy. I deserve to be healthy. I am healthy. And I kept saying that, and I was fine. And I didn't mention it to anybody, because as soon as you start mentioning things, then you're drawing it. So I said,
power to it.
Exactly. So I thought, okay, I'm not going to say anything. And then my son woke up like a week later. He goes, Mom, when I breathe in, it hurts right here. But he's very intuitive. He's like connected to me. So I think he felt what I was feeling before.
Empathically.
So,
yeah. As an empath, yeah.
Yeah, and so I thought, okay, well, you know what? I go, honey, it's going to go away. Don't worry about it. He goes, are you sure? I go, yeah. Before you know, it's going to be gone. And then all of a sudden, it was gone.
Well, that's you guys have made some kind of mechanisms in your life to kind of draw yourself out, see the bigger picture, and then figure out how to deal with it. And instead of getting stuck into the fear. Another thing I also tell people, and which you guys have exhibited in both those examples, is the fact that we create our worlds through thought. Because you thought, then you panicked. Your panic is the reaction, but you didn't fully go into that reaction. You pulled yourself out, and you created a different narrative by creating different words in your head through your affirmations and through your actions. So that's how, through thought, word, and deed, is how we create our life. And if we can be more purposeful creators and use fear as a tool, by recognizing it when it
as a trigger,
life,
it's a trigger. Yeah,
it is a trigger. We can choose it to be either a trigger or a tool.
Yep.
When it's a trigger, that's what we use it.
Yeah.
We then respond to it, and it like controls us. If we use it as a tool, then we can grow from it.
But if it triggers us, we should say, okay, wait, it's triggering me. I need to use it as a tool.
Yes.
In that sense, and say, okay, wait, you know what? I'm getting upset. Wait a second. I'm getting upset because I'm, and it's true. It's very true. I think that totally makes sense. And I think that we should use the fear. And anytime you feel that, where's it coming from? And then that's when, like you were saying, look into ourselves. We have to, that's an indication that we need to focus on ourselves as soon as that fear comes back.
Yes.
You know, I was talking to a friend, and she was saying how she was just so, she was in a place where she got so upset about all of this. And she goes, Laura, she says, you know what I did? I sat back and I meditated. And I said, listen, I'm not going to let this get to me. I'm not going to, you know, and she was telling me all this stuff. And she goes, and I feel much better now. But, you know, there is a time where people just get into that and then they don't know what to do.
Mm-hmm.
And they're stuck in this forever thing. They're literally stuck in that ruminizing about, oh, you know, all this fear and let me just become a hermit. And no, that's, you know, that's not what it is. And this is, to me, there's two things. I think there's two parts of this. Part of it is maybe negative, but some of it can make it a positive, because I think we're growing from this and we're learning from this. All of us, we're what did they say? We're all in this together, you know, and we are. And, you know,
I want to say something briefly, real quick.
Go ahead. Just
when I, like, for instance, I have one friend that I see on a regular basis that we can actually see each other and spend time together, and like, and he tends to watch the news more than I do, and so he'll send this or he'll send that, and I'll go, uh-oh, are you watching pandemic TV? Because you know, like, because he'll send me these things, and then you know, then I usually send him. And now we've gotten the habit of sending each other comic relief things that we see, that someone post, or that we've found, or that we do that, and we'll switch it up. Like, let's watch a comedy. Like, let's you know, do something else. Even though, you know, we can go on walks, we can go on hikes. We're still lucky that we can do some of that physical activity out. But you know, it's really interesting. So and I really only have two friends that I can see in person, and everyone else is too distant and has committed to their jobs. Like, they work for this treatment center, and they can only, you know, they can only see so many people, and they can't have others over. And, you know, so I've learned, you know, how important is my friendship, you know, how much do I rely on the support of you know, one or two individuals that I can see on a regular basis, others that I can communicate with, but I need to be able to see someone in person. I can't, you know, and he has a little kitty, and I can play with the kitty, and animals are so, you know, pure love.
I love cats.
You know?
Yeah, I have cats too. But you know what I've noticed too through this, I appreciate being able to have what I try to say, you know, when I stop and be in the now and literally listen to the birds when I'm in nature.
Yes.
And breathing in and going, thank you. And then that fresh air and saying, thank you for letting me feel the breath. Let me hear the birds. Let me smell the smell. Because when we're in energy form or spirit form, we can't have that. We don't have that, you know, 3D sensation.
Yeah, we don't have the visceral experience that we have while we're in body, when we are in our light body form. That's for sure. That's why we have this experience. And that's something. Sometimes I have to go back and say, okay, thank you for letting me experience what I need to experience. I know, and unfortunately, the only way to experience the things emotionally is we have to be in this form, this density. But if we can realize that we are a spirit having a human experience, and just get back to that, and the other thing that resonates with me very strongly is accept the things you cannot change. Courage to change the things you can. You can't change what's going on, but you can change your reaction to it. And that's very important to me, because yes, like your friend, my husband was listening and watching the news all the time. And okay. And he was getting to the point where he was just, you know, talking to his friends on the phone and talking about, oh, this is happening and that, and guess this is going to, and I said, honey, don't talk about all this fear stuff and then what you predict is going to happen, because you're going to draw that to happen. So don't keep focusing on it and talking to everybody about it, because I think the more we talk about it, the more people are putting it out in the universe. I don't know. That's just, again, that's my fear. But, you know, I do know that somebody once told me, if you have an invention in your mind and you don't go forward with it, you put it out in the universe and somebody else grabs it and does it.
Anybody have any thoughts on that?
Go ahead, Lisa.
Well, yeah, it's why I watched a video earlier today, and it was about a girl who decided, you know, 'cause she was just afraid of everything, to have 100 days with no fear. So she was trying to conquer every single little fear that she had. And what she realized is that really her fears weren't 100 different little fears. They were really grouped into 7 fears, you know, like fear of pain, fear of rejection, fear of abandonment, you know, stuff like that. And when we can, sometimes we can't just ignore it and be positive. Sometimes we need to actually face it. We need to sit in it, and we need to explore it. Ask it questions. Where has it come from? What was your purpose in my life? Because even fear is there for a reason. Fear has been brought up and brought into our being for a reason, because at one point it was saving our lives.
That's what we
Now,
have to, yeah.
The fact that that's happened once, though, and maybe a few times to the point where we're hypersensitive to it, and now, you know, maybe even on the border of PTSD regarding certain fears, that's when fear no longer serves us. And we need to then realize that and do the inner work to put things back into alignment. And then self-love, learning to love ourselves unconditionally, whether we have fear, because fear is not weak. Fear does not equal weak. Fear doesn't equal bad. Fear serves us at the time in which it is needed. It is when those times that it comes up, when it's not appropriate, that it no longer serves us.
Yeah.
And so when we can work through our fears that we've adopted because of those situations, then we can come through on the other side with that understanding for ourselves, unconditional love for ourselves, but also understanding others going through it and having unconditional love for others going through it as well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I believe that. Yes, totally. Yeah. I do believe that. Yeah. Fear is something that's necessary, but it's, you know, and like you were saying, it is something we need to work on in ourselves. It could be stuff that happened as a child, but, you know, and it also could be something that happened in a previous life that we brought with us.
It could be.
Sometimes, you know, but yeah.
Emmanuel does cord cutting, and he's had experiences with previous lives regarding that.
Yeah.
I was going to say, now you're getting into my territory.
Yes.
Good. Yeah. Yeah. The cord cutting thing. I remember I did that with my dad. Explain to us about cord cutting and all that.
So, first, hopefully you have a concept, or at least an open mind to the fact that we may have incarnated and we may have had different past lives and so forth. Usually what I see, what comes up is not the whole story. I might see like, okay, this is where they're blocked, and I'll see it's like following the link, or following, you know, the light to go, and then I see like a picture or a bubble, or I see what it is, and it looks like it was them, but you can tell the clothes are different, or the setting's different, or you know, and you send a little more light, and you oftentimes there is something really unresolved. You know, a dispute over land, over marriage, over there's all kinds of things. But I've noticed that also there is times where they were like a knight, or something, where I must suffer, I must take care of everyone. They've made this vow and this oath, and it comes through because I think since 2012, but I think because we're evolving, you know, like that, all of
You have to
like,
face all of this. Yeah.
Exactly. It's all shifting, and so it's coming up, and so
I call it vomit. Like, it's almost like emotional vomit.
Yeah, but it's coming up, and like even in the sample readings that are shorter, that maybe 15 minutes that I would do at Crystal Fantasy, you know, I had one gentleman come up that had not been there a long time. He was just expecting kind of a standard reading, and he didn't understand why none of his relationships would last, why he pushed people away, all this stuff, and so what I see is oftentimes we're healing the younger self, the child self. So basically the guides will show me and I go, what happened when you were like 3 or 4? Or, there's something right here. Because that's when my mom and dad got divorced. And I said, this is your younger self that's protecting you not to ever get hurt. And it is blocking all your new relationships, all your friendships, all your love relationships. It's keeping it at a distance, at a point. And he literally, we were touching hands, and he's a big man, big straight man, and he was shaking on the table. He was crying and he was shaking. My eyes were closed, but I could feel it. And I said, can we cut the cord? Can we heal this? And usually what happens is I have Archangel Michael or Mother Mary sometimes, different divine beings that come in to do divine masculine and divine feminine, and together they heal, they embrace the child self and let them reintegrate into their heart.
Oh, that's wonderful. I mean, that really, oh my gosh, that resonates with me, because I had some issues like that. And mine was more like, the abuse that my father, domestic abuse and stuff. And that scarred me. And I had a hard time with relationships because I was getting involved with people that were abusive. And I didn't know why. And that makes so much sense. And it wasn't until I took, I talked to a therapist or something, and she was telling me how that's what you resonate with, because that's what you grew up with, and that's what blah, blah, blah. And we absorb so much. And sometimes we don't realize that the world that we see as a child is what is in our house, is the people around us. That's our world in our little mind. And we absorb a lot of that, like you were saying. And yeah, cord cutting is probably necessary too. I mean, with that, I didn't know about cord cutting then, but I had NLP, and that helped.
Exactly. That's where me and Laura had met each other. Yeah, it was through NLP and hypnosis certification. But it's kind of neat to see how, when we're going through those times when we are younger, and that fear response, or that, that protective response we have, that puts us and then creates those foundations for us later on. They need to be repaired, fixed, revisited, cut, whatever works for you to be able to get past that and grow reconnect to your divine self. Is very important. And I think a lot of people need that today, because they're dealing a lot with these, what I call dark night of the soul issues. And some people are going into full dark night of the soul right now because of everything that's going on. They're just, they don't know how to deal with it. And I think when people can hear certain stories like what we're saying, that they can then say, oh, I'm not alone. Exactly. There's things that I can do that can help me, on many different levels.
I did want to share something. Sorry, I went right to healing child self, but the cord cutting, and specifically, it happens in both practices that I do, in a Reiki session or in a setting with a reading or doing a reading interactively. But what happens with people, well, there can be past life cords, but there can also be people currently in your life that are draining too much. Okay. And so when you see that their self-esteem chakra is being really drained, and because I'm connected with spirit and my eyes are closed, I'm following where that's going to. And it could be their mother, it could be a boss, it could be, best friend, it could be lover, it could be anything, but you see where it's going, and you ask, okay, who is this, and how, what's going on? And then, you have to really let them know that if there's unconditional love at the soul conscious level, you're always going to have unconditional love, but they're not allowed to drain too much of your energy.
Oh, that's great. Yeah.
So when Archangel Michael, for instance, comes up, if it's a big cord that's really draining their energy, we ask permission, and we cut the cord, and then there's light bandages put over that chakra, or where it was in their body, and then I have these golden fairies that come in and kind of clear the leftover energy, and you have to let them know that they're physically going to drain and release some of this energy. It might feel like a cold, it might be diarrhea, it could be anything, but your body holds that fear and that anger and all that stuff in the system.
Mm-hmm.
So it will heal, but it will physically heal too.
And so that's great, because what we're talking about with the fear is you don't necessarily have to relive the experience that you had as a child that caused it. You just have to, your body has to, let's see. I know I had another thing that happened, and this lady did one through breathing, like breathing out. You're breathing out, and then she's pulling cords out of me, and it was this anger that I had towards, my sister, and she says, oh, there's so much in there. And she was pulling that out. And I felt exhausted afterwards, but my feet were in earth when she was doing this and stuff, but I didn't have any more anger towards her. It was like all that was just taken out. So I think all of this all relates to energy. Everything is energy. And if we, in our heart, or if our subconscious mind believes that this is being cured, it's cured. It's gone, and it won't think about it twice, and I think it gives us this fear because as a child, it says, okay, hang on to this. We'll bury it until it's time to come out. And when you're old enough, we can deal with it. And so we hold on to it all of our life, not really knowing. And then all of a sudden in our 20s or something, why are all these things happening? And then it comes up, and then we got to deal with it. And it's also part of our spiritual awakening too.
Well, yeah, it is. And I think we have to learn how to process it ourselves. I've done a healing, several healings on people where I've had similar experiences than you, Emmanuel, where you see those connections and you see that energy and you try to do the clearing. I have come upon, when doing the healing, where I was told that, I did as much as I'm supposed to. The rest is supposed to be for them to work through. So, because we are all on our own walk. We are sovereign beings. We have our own life and soul we have to care for, and that we have to take responsibility for ourselves. And we can't, as healers, as coaches, as people who just care about other people, we can't just take on their whole burden. We can show them and give them tools and help them with guidance.
Well, I've had people ask, say it was a very difficult relationship, and they still really somehow they want that relationship to work out, and I've had clients ask me if we ever get reconnected, or can we do that? And I'm like, you can allow that cord at any time, but the idea is to get you in your best place, focus on your self-love, you do your healing, and then you can reconnect with that person and examine if this is the type of person that you want to connect with or you want to share with. Because if you do the inner work and the inner self-healing, you're likely to attract someone that's going to meet your vibration and respect and honor you. And
right,
I had to tell her, I had to tell her, don't you deserve, you deserve to be loved, treated well, someone that's fully available, not someone that's not divorced and in another marriage.
Yeah.
This is not your only thing.
I think it's weird too, because I think a lot of people are afraid of change. So they don't want to, I've come across that a few times too, with some clients would say stuff like, well, I know he's my soulmate. I know that we need to be together. I'm like, well, it's hard for you when you're not when you don't love yourself. It's hard for you to love somebody else, and sometimes, if they take that little break and go within, they'll realize what, they really want. And like you were saying, they'll attract what they want. It's just when you're in that fear and then you also don't want to change, you just keep attracting the same thing over and over. It's almost like a mirror image of the same person, not the same look, but the same personality as the last person.
A lot of people will sit there and they'll point, at this thing and that thing and that thing. That's I'm afraid of that, and I'm afraid of that, and I'm afraid of that. When
Limiting
really,
beliefs.
yeah, what it is we're afraid of something within, or dealing with emotions within that is then we're just pointing at it out here. Because in order to have our outer world reflect things, we are a mirror. of
Yes.
that outer world, and we need to do that inner work first before we're going to see the betterment out in that world. And that's part of
That's
what we're
so
doing
true.
right now.
It is so true. I mean, and that's the thing. When I was younger, I kept reading books about, oh, well, you need to change this, but it's kind of hard to change if you don't have that guidance. And that's why we're here to guide you guys. You know, you don't have to become, somebody that drinks your life away or drugs or any of this. There's a way out of this, guys. There's a total way out, and that is just it doesn't have to be so emotional. You can go to Emmanuel. You can, you could read books. You could heal yourself. There's so many forms of doing it, and release those inner demons, the things that are going on that you don't need to hang on to anymore. You're grown up now. You don't need to hang on to any of this stuff anymore. It's now kind of time to take the trash out.
I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
Okay, so no, I just, you reminded me of something. Because I come from a recovery experience and I have almost 13 years of sobriety, and I come from that background.
Congratulations.
Thank you. I had what I call an interim spiritual teacher that kind of was like, throw the baby in the deep end. Let's go do a sweat lodge. Let's go to Sedona. Let's, she didn't really train me, but she just was like, heal me with your crystal. Oh, okay. But she was fantastic because I was just understanding incarnations, and I had just got to this healer circle in LA where I heard a wonderful woman who does past life regressions, but she gave us the idea. And you mentioned soulmate, and you mentioned this terminology. She goes, she broke it down. She said soulmates are a group of 20 or 30 beings. They could be lovers, they could be mother, father, they could be wife, they could be best friend, they could be whatever, and after you incarnate, you go, oh, I think I want to be black this time. Oh, I think I want to be female. I think I want to do this. I think we pick these incarnations for things we want to learn and abilities that we'll be able to help others and stuff. And so my spiritual teacher, she goes, do you think that you chose to be gay and in sports and in the Bible Belt in Kansas to have that experience, then to go through the disease of addiction, and then also to go through living life HIV positive? Do you think you chose those things to learn? She just kind of asked it open, like, do you think you chose to incarnate that way? And after I thought about it, it's like, yeah, those could be seen as tough, but like when I learned to come out and be myself and be free of any type of what masculinity is supposed to be and all this stuff, and I could dance and I could be silly and I could do anything that I wanted, and it was a part of my culture, that was amazing. When I got sober and looked at my part and what's my part and how can I make amends and what am I not responsible for, what's healthy boundaries, what are relationships, how they're supposed to work. I learned that not from my parents. I learned that through my journey and through recovery, how to be of service to others.
We learn a lot. I know that it's weird, but I know that a lot of us have struggled, and you struggled, Lisa, as well as I. And through all of that, we have recovered in a way that we are now the example. I when I was younger, with all this stuff going on, I kept saying, I can't believe anybody would. I would never treat my kids like this. I didn't choose to be born, blah, blah, blah. I used to say that stuff. But now I look back and I'm like, you know what? I chose these challenges because I don't know. Every time I do stuff, there was always a brick wall. I'm like, why does this happen to me? It doesn't happen to anybody else, but it happens to me, And it's like, oh, roommates are great. This and that. I had the worst roommate. I had, whatever it was, I'd have the worst.
Right.
And, but it was because instead of looking at it as, oh, well, it happens to me all the time. I looked at it as, okay, what is the lesson? Now I look at it and say, what's the lesson here? Why is this happening? And I have to stop and actually think about it. And then once I realize what's happening and I learn to accept it, it stops. And it just recently started. I mean, I think after I met Lisa, because she kind of helped point out some things, and that's when I realized, and I'm still growing. Every day I'm still growing and learning.
We all are.
But there are other ways out. And, people that are challenged out there, sometimes you got to think, hey, maybe there's a lesson in this, and maybe I chose this path, and maybe what can I do to be the example for other people? Because right now with my family, a lot of them are very limiting in what they do. They're limiting beliefs and all this, all that, and very negative. And I chose, instead of preaching to them, to say, listen, I'm going to be the example, and this is what I'm going to, when they respond this way, I'm just going to say this. And instead of questioning them and saying that they have a problem, I kind of just be the example. And I notice that they're picking up on a little bit of that. So they're starting to do the same thing. And, and I kind of give them a little bit of idea of what the law of attraction is. That really does play a big part, because again, energy, we're like magnets. We attract stuff out there. Everything is made out of energy,
Well,
and yeah. Go
I was
ahead.
just going to say attraction rather than promotion. That's like one of the big
Exactly.
principles of the faith or not the faith of recovery, but
Exactly.
it's a broader concept. But yeah, I've noticed that even in my friendships as of late, if I make a positive move, if I do something healthy, rather than preaching to them, they're like, oh, what are you doing? They're just, they go, well, he's feeling good and happy. Why don't I move in that direction?
Yeah, exactly.
It's I don't know. There's just something that I try and tell my clients, and when I actually start doing more videos myself and doing things, it's like we are incredibly powerful beings, and then the society trains us that we're not. But
Exactly.
we have our perception, our focus, our gifts. Like it's inherent within our design, within our DNA, within every aspect. I don't know. It's just,
I believe that, and I believe that we chose to be here, and we're light workers. All and it's an exciting time. We chose to be here because we want to have that little candle going and show people, hey, this is the way to go. This is the way to go, because we're awakening right now. Is this big? When I was first awakening, when I was 12 or something, I knew there was something different about me, and I knew there was something I should seek. And I kept going to churches, and every single different type of church, and I didn't find the answer. It was later, I wasn't until I went to an intuitive workshop or something that I realized all the answers were inside of me. And,
yeah.
it just gets to the point where, and then I started meeting people that have had near-death experiences, and they've gone to the light. And one woman told me, she goes, when I got to the light, she said, because she died from, briefly, like 5 to 8 minutes, and she said it was from taking Sudafed. She had an allergic reaction, and she said when she got to the light, there was a huge light and all these little sparkly lights that looked like little stars, and she said the little, they were other beings, but in her mind she was still in physical form, although she wasn't. And the main being said, the laws of your world are not the same laws here. And then she also said there was nobody that was male or female up there. There is no male or female. We're energy. We are energy. And it's just this material 3D world where we make things solid as male and female, and it's a big deal, and it's kind of like the Dr. Seuss thing with the X on your stomach, and those that don't have the X's, so yeah.
Yep. Well, yeah, it's just a form of expression, I think, and we get to live that expression for an experience, and we get to learn through it. When we can connect.
Go ahead. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. Oh, okay. I was just saying you get to learn, like, say you're in the masculine form, you get to learn about your divine feminine and what is your divine masculine, and just in the women, you get to learn about both as well. It's like, but you get to have a physical experience, but then you get to have this other expression.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm, exactly. And I think it's great because, it challenges people, because it makes them, before it was, to me, I think that they went through so much because it was like, before it was racism, and then now it's like this genderism. And I think if we just learn to accept people for who they are, and we shouldn't put up rules, because some of these rules are not really, what I don't like is that some people play and say, well, these rules are from the divine. No, they're not, because God is only love. He will never say anything about this person can't go because, and that's what questioned me about a lot of my belief system, my religious beliefs were, I'm sorry, but I do believe that every being on this earth that God has created out of love, if they are of love, they will be there in heaven. I question it because my mom's Japanese, and she never went to church or anything. And they kept saying, if she didn't, do something. I don't want to get involved, but then she wouldn't make it. And I'm like, no, that's not true. And that's when I realized my God is not prejudiced. My God is not going to say, no, you can go and you can't. And I realized the image I had of the pearly white gates and this guy with this big mallet and a big book saying, well, I don't know if you can enter into heaven, that was just, not true.
Right.
And so I realized, you know what, my God's of love. And all the stuff they used to say, oh, you're being punished, God's punishing you, and they put that fear in me all the time. My family would do that stuff, and I'm like, there's no such thing as God's punishing you. We punish ourselves. We make our own hell by worrying about things and stuff. And
we can make our own heaven as well, though.
Exactly.
Just connect to that creator divine spark that we are, and that is by connecting to unconditional love, taking care of those things that are within us that are part of our dark side, learning to love those parts because they are there for a purpose, whether it's fear, whether it's judgments, whatever it is. Those are the parts of us that we need to learn are there for a reason.
There's a lesson for all of this too. I mean, that's why it's there. Like you were saying, we have to learn from it.
Yeah.
Why is it there? And what can we do to, I think a lot of things too is just work on ourselves, be in the now. Don't worry about what's going to happen tomorrow. Just worry about now.
Yeah.
What can we do now?
Like you were saying with your friend, Emmanuel, turn off the TV.
Yes.
Don't get stuck in the narrative of what everyone else is saying will happen. I've seen so many people post on certain things saying this conspiracy, this is their plan. And it's almost like they're affirming it, like you were saying, Emmanuel. And I go, why reaffirm what they are saying, their narrative? Create your own narrative. Mm-hmm. What do you want? What do you want to experience? Do you want to experience that we come out of this more prepared, more having more resources, being able to recognize things for as they are? Because right now we are in the time of Aquarius. Truth will shine through. This is the purpose of this time, is for the truth to come up like cream from milk.
Yeah, it's true.
I was going to say, just along with that, like, no, I lost my thought. So some people are afraid of technology. Some people are embracing technology. And now some of these people are probably proponents against technology. Like, technology has connected us in a way, and we're using it. And because we have to be more home-based, I get to go to my favorite AA meeting in Hollywood. I get to go to my favorite AA meeting in Idlewild. I can go to New York if I want to go to a meeting. I can transverse and connect with people in a way that was not available when I was younger, when I was 20 years ago. So like,
I mean, it's true. Yeah. I think that technology is great, but there's my fear is like, you ever seen that movie WALL-E?
Of course. Yeah.
That's my fear. It's like we're gonna all just be these people, just like,
I think there's things that we can pull out of any situation that are positives, and that's one of them that you were saying.
That's true. Being able to be in a place that you can't be there physically, but you're there.
I don't believe that this is something that's going to be a forever how it is. I do feel though that it has kind of propelled us to get, because all three of us have planned to kind of do something like this and get more into this zone to offer these things, because we know this is how people are learning. We know this is how people are connecting with other people, and this has propelled us to do that. And so now that we're in that zone to, now we can get that jump start. We've had to, in order to kind of stay in our connections to each other and working and still conversing and practicing what we practice, that it'll now give us even more tools and avenues to be able to do what we need to do.
I think that's great. Go ahead.
Well, we've also, think about it too. Think about the fears that we have all dealt with to just be here on face in screen.
I know.
I'll tell you, 2 months ago, we didn't want to do this. We only wanted to do our voice. And here we are looking at each other at a screen. and to, if we're going to be putting this out to somebody else, they're going to be seeing us too, whether we do it in audio or whether we do it in video, either way it's going to be out there.
It's like, for me, it's like a push, saying, because I kept thinking to myself, I need something to push me, and this pushed me. And it's funny, because when I was talking to my husband, and I was telling him how not people, but just in general, like society is in general has become like everybody wants money, 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 and money's such a fake system, and it's all man-made. And the thing is I kept saying it's like everybody's just out, they're not connected, they're not with it. And and he says, well, you know what, honey, I think we need another 9/11 for people to realize this and to become one. And little did we know, a month later, this whole COVID thing came, and this is our new 9/11. And people have learned to grow, love, look at themselves. Some people that haven't, they might still be looking at the fear, looking at everything else outside. When you find that you're looking at everything outside and not, that means you're not looking inside. So just those that are out there still looking at this and fearing that, stop with that. We have no control of that. Just look inward, and what can you do now to live your day the best you can right now, and to appreciate the life that you have and your family and just all the wonderful other things that you have. And when you do that, you will draw more positive things to you. And also the law of attraction draws, if you're struggling with finances, you just bring out all the gratitude that you have, and you'll end up getting finances coming out of the woodwork, and not even having to ask for it, because it's the gratitude that gives you more of that. And we just need to be stop picking on everybody else and being so judging of everybody else. Let's just focus on ourselves, because a lot of times when we look at other people, it's because something within us that we're not facing, and my husband goes, it's funny how those little things everybody was protesting and all this stuff they were talking about, plastic bags, everything was like how important all this stuff was, and now that stuff's all gone. So much for that. It's like, what's really important? We need to really think about what's more important, and we need to start getting back to the people, and not to be political, but our politics and everything, we need to get back to the people. What's important for the people, not for themselves, and I know that a lot of people are waking up and seeing that, and I'm glad they are.
And that's where we find our I think our true power is by not being sucked into all the fear mongering and stuff, but by seeing what is important to us right now, and then standing up for that. Put our energy into that instead of getting sucked into the fear. You wanted to say something, Emmanuel?
Yeah, I was just going to say, it's forced me to really actually focus on developing the things that have been channeled to me, the things that I should be giving to the world. People, other healers, other people in my profession have said, you should be doing videos, you should be educating, you should be getting your voice out there, how you can help people. And I was afraid, like, just to do, it took me like so long just to do a 1-minute video to do promotion. I had all these different takes. I took another day of filming.
I was supposed to do that, and I got to the point where I tested, and I didn't go through with it because I was afraid. I still because I'm trying to do like my own little podcast on my own little thing, and I have that fear of talking into a thing and nobody there. But having you guys there, it's easier for me. You know what I mean?
You know what the funniest thing was, though? The first take that I did without the script, without anything, was perfect. And it was, and I did it. And then I kept thinking I could do better. And I wrote the script, and I wrote an outline, and I kept messing up, and it kept screwing up, and it kept not working. And I went right back to the first video, and I was like, oh, that was genuine. I said exactly what I needed to say, and the energy was right. The light was right. It was perfect. And that's what I ended up using. It was really cool.
Because we're not being authentic by looking at an outline or whatever. We get to talk about what you really feel, and and I think spirit will make you say what you are supposed to say, whether you want to or not. It's gonna say what it needs to say. And I think this is the time, like I said, we have chosen to be here, and this is why this is happening. There's been forces trying to stop it. Nope, we're gonna make sure this gets out, and I'm so glad that we're all here to do this right now, because this definitely needs to be out. It really
I
does.
just shared a video based on there was, I think, 5 different speakers talking about how to turn fear into something that's better. And it just, they go over the biology, they go over the psychology, they go over the emotions, they go over cognitive behavioral therapy practices, you know, and they don't go into the NLP, but Laura and I have experience and certification in that. But there are things out there that can help people to deal with these emotions and then get to the core of what's really holding back. And with Emmanuel, it's, you know, it's his energetic healing. So on many levels, and you don't have to go one before the other. You know, you can go from any direction to find your answers. But as long as you're taking care of you, because right now we're in an experience right now where, yes, we are all one. We are all different expressions of the Creator, which is that spark within us. But we are also on that sovereign journey. And so we need to go inside, take care of what's inside, so that way we can clear that to be able to bring a brighter tomorrow.
I have a question for you, Lisa and Emmanuel. Do you think that sometimes some of the fear is brought on because they're not grounded, and that maybe they need to ground themselves? And can you guys explain to me what grounding is for the audience or for the people listening?
Well, I think the fears do come from things that they need to work on. And I mean, you mentioned grounding, and kind of like, I always do a blessing of sending light, love and light into Mother Earth, into her core. And I know if like, even like when Earth Day came and other things came up, it was like, we are her guest. You know, she is alive and we are her guest. And I always thank her for just creating this, wonderful environment that we can exist, you know. And so starting with that gratitude, I have a beautiful apartment. I have everything I could possibly need. You know, I'm not, I'm fully supported, and I live in this beautiful environment with these wonderful animals and all kinds of stuff. And so I think, I think if we're spinning up here and we aren't in our body, and I think that's kind of more what you're talking about with grounding.
Scattered. Yeah.
It's one of the things actually that we've done in the program that I learned from recovery is that when you're spinning, you're just going to keep spinning. So the way to break out of that is to call someone who has is new in the program or has less time than you or has less experience than you. You call them, you see how they're doing, and you make them talk, because that immediately takes you out of what you're spinning on. And then you realize, oh my gosh, he's homeless and jobless and is trying to find his next meal and is trying to get sober as well. And here you have, you have everything that you could possibly need, and you're spinning on something else. So
yeah, that's true. Because I think by helping somebody else or talking to somebody else, it helps you grow, and it helps you realize all, like you were saying, all the stuff that you have, and
that you have stuff to offer. That you have
exactly.
And it puts things into perspective a bit too, right, Emmanuel?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah, well, that's another thing I think when it comes to fear or even judgment, some of it you can have valid fear, but then you can also have perceived fear. And how much of that fear is got a basis where it's no longer valid, or blown out and it's more at this point perceived fear, which is what a lot of what's going on right now is perceived fear, because we don't know what's going on. So we don't know what's going to happen.
So what do we do? Here's another scenario. Let's say there's somebody that has a lot of fear or whatever, and you're near them and you pick up their energy. So what can people out there do when they know that they're living with somebody that is just, and they can't tell the person not to do this? Maybe it's their roommate or something. What can they do to protect themselves so they're not picking up their fear? And because now this person feels fearful because this person's energy is on them. What are some steps that they can do to kind of clear that up?
Can I jump in, Lisa?
Yeah, okay. Go ahead.
So one of the things when I first work with people and stuff like that is to try and understand actually most everyone is to a certain level empathic. We all have these gifts. We all have this within us. There are just different levels of development. But when you start understanding that you have the power to work with your own energy and create your own boundaries and your light, that's, when we cut cords, I let them know, like when you start your day, you can ask for the light and the protection to come around you. You're still receiving, you can still send light and energy, but you're not taking on other energy. And I have to say real quick, one thing that I saw that there's reasons why I should be doing my videos about what I do, because there are so-called gurus that dress like a guru and put information on YouTube, and they tell lies about what Reiki is, for instance. They say, oh, that practitioner is taking on their karma and all this other crap, which is the opposite. As a healer, as a practitioner, as a therapist, as anyone, you are supposed to be just the observer. You call in the energy, but their spirit guides, they are healing themselves. They are releasing what needs to be released, and it goes where it's supposed to go. Like that type of misinformation is why people are afraid of the work I do.
Yeah.
And the work we do. It's like no, you're only responsible for your energy. You're not to take on other people's energies.
Exactly.
So what I would say, and one of the meditations that I want to put together that people can buy as a little MP3 is how to fill up with light and create your own pyramid of light or your own barrier of light that's around you, so that that you are fully receiving, that you are sending, but you can protect your energy.
Exactly. And that's part of the grounding deal too, like you were saying, as long as you're well grounded, you're not going to suck up all that energy, and you're not open to all of that.
Well, and you can then, when you're grounded too, you can perceive things better and then get a gauge.
Oh yeah, for sure.
As to, how much of this is real and how much is not. And then I had another thought, but I lost it. It was based on what you were talking about, Emmanuel, but I can't remember.
I was going to say the other thing is too, not to discount that we do pick up things, because sometimes we are meant to help others.
Right.
Yeah.
It's so if I'm working with someone and I pick up on that, it's like, you kind of ask them a little more questions, like, what was the issue, or what did come up? Because not only is it something that they might need to work on, but it's something that if that's in their capacity, if that's in their calling, learn something about this. Like I had a friend that got me to the healer circle, who's an incredible astrologist. I had a medium experience, and I thought it was a hallucination. I thought there was something mentally wrong with me, and he said this is how it happened. It came to you at work. He knew that you weren't afraid of death and so forth, and he had a message for you, right? Yeah. He goes, so now go to the bookstore and read about mediumship. It's one of your gifts. Mm-hmm. So there is a part of some of that being useful, but at the same time, not to let it overwhelm you, to, be aware of it, but still maintain your energy.
Oh yeah. You have to be able to use your discernment and know what's good and what's bad. I mean, if you're doing a ghost investigation, you want to make sure you're protected and, things like that, they're not coming home with you, but yeah, so
that's
there's
where
different
boundaries
practices.
Boundaries can be created on all different levels: emotional boundaries, physical boundaries, spiritual, energetic boundaries, psychological boundaries. They're effective on all, and should actually be considered on all aspects, because then it makes you more prepared.
There's so much for us to learn about that.
I was going to say so too. Some of my experiences that I had to tackle with my stepmother and some other things is when they start talking to you at a certain point, when they continue to repeat why don't you keep a job? Why aren't you paying your bills? Why, they say all these negative things. And I got to the point with my stepmom, and I said, you cannot talk to me this way, and I will hang up on you right now if you don't quit.
Yeah, and you know what you can tell them too is it's out of their control. They can't control you. Right. Why worry about something you can't control?
Well, the thing about that which was really cool, which was interesting, was as soon as I said that, she paused. She
Good.
was very quiet, and then she went on to a whole nother conversation, and she never did that again.
Awesome.
But
See,
I had to.
you have to speak up. Yeah.
I had to say, either you treat me and talk to me as an adult and as a person and respect me, or I'm not talking to you.
That's
So if you
good
need
for you.
if you
Good
need
for
to leave
you.
the room, if you need to excuse yourself, or if you need to do that, you do not have to sit and listen to something that's degrading or hurting your spirit. You can excuse yourself.
You know what? And I had that fear, and my dad would say negative things, and instead of speaking up, I just, oh, well, blah, blah, blah. And then you go home and cry. So I'm proud of you for doing that, because it takes a lot to speak up, but I'm glad you did, because that puts them in their place, and it helps them to realize, hey, you know what? We're not talking about it anymore. However, I use something like that now with my family members. If they say something negative, why is this person doing that? And why is so-and-so doing this? And I'm like, you know what? They have this money. Why are they spending it? I said, you know what? It's their money. Let them spend it the way they want. It does nothing for you to complain about it. Why are we complaining about somebody else?
And money is energy. I mean, it's like and it's like, there was a shift that happened with me, like, okay, so this may look over the top that they're doing, but are they loving their life? Are they enjoying things? Are they out there doing that? And I had a friend that got married, and his husband was really, really successful and made $5 million a year with landscaping and interior design and all this stuff. And I felt nervous. I didn't understand I didn't feel like I could relate to their friends, all this stuff. And I was at their house, which had been in Better Homes and Gardens.
Yeah.
and I was at their house. And the great thing was, my friend Richard goes, Chris, why don't you show Emmanuel the gardens outside? And I walked outside with him, and he knew every single flower and how it enhanced this, and that he grew herbs in their garden and all this stuff. And it just clicked. I was like, oh, they love what they do. They didn't ask people to stay in hotels. This multiple story house was filled with all their friends, for this, God, what was it? It was when you have a baby and you have the baby shower. It was a baby shower. So they had this baby shower, and they just asked me to run a few errands, and there was 200 people at this baby shower, and I was like, oh, I get it. They love what they do. They love people. They love to entertain. It's not like they're trying to show off. They are sharing their gifts of joy and abundance and energy. And
exactly.
So
we're doing great.
And I think when we, like I said, when we're working on doing the good inside of us, we'll start seeing that on the outside too. When we, like what you've been talking about, you recognize certain judgments that you've had within yourself, whether it's judgment, whether it's fear. And sometimes it's judgment of fear. As long as you can work through it. Like the other day, Emmanuel sent me a video, and it was this awesome, beautiful voice lady who sang this song, and but the song had just more towards the end, it was just this hate vibe to it, and I did not like that hate vibe, and I really had a judgment for that hate vibe. So I really had to start thinking about it, and I haven't quite worked all through it yet, but I did have, it was almost like it was both fear and judgment of this hate, this emotion hate. And I think it's because I've lived my life trying to propagate the unconditional love, that I still have to kind of, okay, where does hate come in? Where does hate have its purpose, is what I'm having to look into that. But even for something like that, is I was able to, when we can work on ourselves and know ourselves to a certain degree, then we're not triggered by these lower emotions as much. We can recognize them, and we can work through that and figure out where these emotions are placed, because each one of these emotions have their place. And sometimes it's not really hate. Sometimes there's even fear behind the hate.
Hate is a strong word.
It is a strong
hate.
word.
I think it's just, you
I think
discourage it or dislike it more.
I think most of it comes from the fear that comes from hating, to be afraid of what is creating that. that possible scenario. Go ahead, Emmanuel.
Well, I was going to say, you really triggered me to think about something else that came up. There was a global meditation.
I did it.
That everyone did. Okay. Well, but my reaction to that was different. Is I kind of ignored it. I said I was going to do it, and then I kind of ignored it. And then when it got closer, I reread it, and I saw like control and we're gonna take the power away. And I saw worried about 5G and about technology. Some of that was interlaced with the promotion that I got. And so yeah. I had an experience that I was like, no, I'm going to spend time with my dear friend, and we're going to watch Harriet. And
you know what? There were some things out there that were very deceiving, and I found I was looking at one, and I'm like, yeah.
Sorry.
And then I found one that was really positive, and it was more or less putting all the energy, positive stuff into Mother Earth and growing roots around her.
Yeah, well, I get it what you're saying, but what happened for me, which was great, was the next day. I knew that I was supposed to do, they had something for me to do. My spirit guides had something very specific. And that's when it was higher beings that I had not really seen before that took me into this perspective of being larger than Mother Earth and holding her in my arms. And then how they designed the solar system and how the universe was put together. And then sending light from the pyramids, sending light from the tops of the mountains to heal every insect, every molecule, every atom, everything of the earth. And it was very specific, and it was very fast, and it was very, like, it just blew me away. And I was like, okay, it was great that this was happening, but there was something deeper and more powerful that I was supposed to do. And so I was able to follow that guidance and feel it, and then go, okay, what am I supposed to do? And when it came to me, it was like 2 hours. it was a lot of what I was supposed to do. It was amazing.
I think we had to do I think that, I think we need to bring up something eventually on another show about the nefarious things that are going on behind the scenes that are trying to make it seem like they're positive, but they're not, like you were saying. But then there's also, they're blocking the positive, so they're trying to discredit the positive things that are going on. And I think
keep in mind right now with what you're saying in your words. I'm just going to bring this up because you're saying what they're saying, what they're saying.
I don't know who they are, but
it doesn't matter who they are, because you know what? We create.
Exactly.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
We are creators, and we can create our own narrative.
And so what I'm saying is that Mother Earth there's a need for all of us to send our positive love to Mother Earth, because she does need healing right now, and getting our approval by the healing and whatnot, she can do what needs to be done. The energies because people don't realize that when we set off that atomic bomb, it not only affected our planet, it affected the whole universe. Other planets felt it. It's a big vibration. It's a vibrational thing. It's from an atom. So everything, everywhere around the universe shook. So there were beings out there that were very concerned about us and what we're doing to our planet, because not every being is going out and blowing up their planets. I
was going to say, and hopefully they see, in the short period of time, how the pictures of the ozone like healing, the clear waters in Venice, all of these things.
Did you notice since we've had COVID, the air has been cleaner?
Yeah. Oh yeah. It's like, and the scientists are now gathering much more data and showing, and they have this experiment where people are not driving, where people are not going to all these things, where we were forced to slow down, where all the stuff where we have to look at it, it's like, I think, and I don't want to use they, but I think, that some certain technologies have been suppressed that we've had since Tesla, since all kinds of stuff with free energy,
exactly,
and no emissions and all this stuff. And here's something that may bring a whistleblower or may bring someone out that actually has this and can implement it, and we can make that shift to free energy, make that shift to things that we need to, because if not, we're a disease to Gaia, and there are going to be more things that happen
Like what you're talking about right now, Emmanuel, is us changing that narrative that is out there, the scare tactics that are going on out there, that that we're changing that.
Well, do you remember, again, this is, I think, another Dr. Seuss movie, but what is that one where the guy, the sneeze, and he tears down all the trees?
Doctor Who.
No. It's what is it called? And then they live in this bubble, and this guy is like, charging people to breathe the air. It was just on the Lorax. The Lorax. And I had Dave watch that, and I said, you got to watch this. And this guy loved everything. There was all these, animals and stuff. And then he started tearing down the trees because he needed to make these sneeze things, these clothing things. And he tore down every single one. And all the animals ended up leaving and stuff. And so there became this world, like years later, where there was this bubble over this little area. And it was this little boy that got out of that little bubble. And he went to this place, and he found the old guy that tore down all the old trees. By this time, he's like very old, and he gave him a seed, and he said, plant it. And this other guy's like, no, you can't plant it, it's bad. And he was the one that was in charge of it, charging people for air and water and all this. And he goes, no, it's bad for you. And it was like, no, just let it grow, let it grow. And the whole thing was let it grow. And part of it is, but if, only if, unless if, that's what the question was, unless if, that was the whole thing. Unless somebody does something about it and makes the change, things aren't going to change. So unless somebody speaks up, like you were saying, or unless somebody, has something out there to make it better and let it grow. We have to let it grow. It's the thing that I'm talking about. They stop it from letting it grow.
They don't stop it. We stop it.
Well, that one guy that came up with the water using vehicle, whatever, instead of using gas.
No, right, but that's their narrative. That's not our narrative. So we can't adopt that. We have the option
to do it.
right now, like when we're speaking right now, we have the option, just let's say we've talked about this certain thing that we're afraid of. We realize that this is a fear. We can work our way through it. But what do we want besides what this fear has been giving us, which is whatever is being propagated out here?
Yeah.
Okay. And this is just a mirror of what's happening inside. So when we start dealing with and start connecting with our true source, then we can gain that power, build our own narrative. Say, I know this is what's being going on here, but you know what? I say, I stand up for this. This is what I want. I stand for equality. I stand for sovereign. I stand for a free economy. I stand for whatever it is you stand for. And we've come to a point right now.
Do that, yes.
We've come to a point right now where we have to.
Mm-hmm.
We have to. And that's why, if we can help people deal with these fears, then they can do that for themselves too on their own level. And because if we don't stand up and say yes for this, no for that, then all we're doing is going along with their plan.
I had to really, break out of that and go, oh, okay. And look at Greta, the little teenage girl that is changing the world. Like she will speak out, and she believes and knows and is holding those the people accountable. And it's like I think even the kids that were when there was the one more shooting in Florida, I think, and the kids talked to them about gun control, to the senator, and said, do you still support NRA and stuff like that? And he blank faced because he couldn't even say anything, because an 11-year-old or a 12-year-old was holding him accountable.
Yeah.
And I just think, I think more and more we need to highlight the people that are taking those actions, that are doing that. Like the young Puerto Rican senator who she went against Big Pharma. She said, why is this HIV medication $1,500 or $1,600 a month here, and it's $8 a month in Venezuela?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, who is pocketing all these monies, to pay for this, but no one could possibly pay that much for medication and pay their rent and mortgage and all that stuff. So it's, I think
they base their whole society on who can do what. And
well,
I think Dave and I were talking about that too, about how people
That's been one of my fears, is to speak up, because, when you start getting into the debate, you start speaking up for something, people like to pigeonhole you, and I don't like to be pigeonholed. Whether you're left, whether you're right. And that's when we're not getting into like what's going on in politics in this podcast, but because there's points on both sides, and there's things going on both sides, and I have my own theories about all that. But what is true about it is that when we find something that is an injustice, we need to stand up regardless. And when people try to pigeonhole us, stand up even more. Because, just because, let's say, you may disagree with me on this one, but let's say I am for having my Second Amendment rights. But somebody else isn't. And I feel like, okay, just because I am for my Second Amendment rights doesn't mean I'm out there trying to shoot a people down. Or let's say people are for having other rights that are more on the liberal spectrum of things, and green planet and stuff like that. And yet other people who are trying to hold me over there. And it's like, I'm like going, no, that doesn't mean I'm sitting here being triggered. It means I'm have a balance of things that I feel within me that serve.
Well, everybody has a right to their beliefs, and I think it's wrong for people to cut other people.
There needs to be a constructive communication, a dialogue, and instead of trying to pigeonhole and trying to judge people and put people into a corner in order to shut them off, I've had to stand up. Recently, and said, no, you can't judge me in that way, and I've had to do that, and that's not, and with my name on there, the connections with my business and everything on there, they could sit there and then some of them will even try to come up and try to intimidate you. I've had to deal with intimidation. See, just because I make my feelings known.
Well, you could speak up, but the thing is though, it causes, we can't let these things bother us, because that's the whole narrative, is for them to make it upset, and it takes us out of our spiritual self, and that's what they want. So I know you need to speak up and everything, but a lot of the things that we have here, we do need, and it does need to be in place. And it was hard, because like with my husband going into, this is martial law, and I said, slow down. There's so much stuff going out there that's saying, they don't control. Yes, they do want control, but I don't think it's going to happen in that sense. All this stuff that's going on, but it's all just, in the narrative, it's all just all man-made.
Things are a lot more dynamic than what. It's more dynamic.
It's very deep, and it's just.
I did want to say one thing, and I didn't mean to go off into a certain side of politics and whatever. I remember one time I just posted something because this guy said, I don't need a automatic, assault rifle to hunt with. I don't have anything, against hunting and having your own handgun and whatever, but it's the fact that you could buy an AK assault rifle on the Walmart website.
You can't. Not in California. You can't. You have to be. It's the other states that allow it.
Many places. So I guess what I'm saying, that part I felt alarming, because it seemed like it is not necessary. People can still have their rights to bear arms, but they don't need an assault.
I don't even think they need to even be making AK-47s. To be honest with you, there's no reason.
But that's a whole nother. I guess.
I know.
Yeah, we don't have to get into that, but.
But I totally understand.
I tried to post something positive that I thought was positive. One of my friends came at me and she said, well, I hunted with this and I did, she went through this whole tirade. And I said, I only posted this because I thought it was someone that made a positive statement saying, I don't need this. He didn't say I was against guns or anything like that. And so I said, I appreciate what you're saying, and but I don't want to have any more of this argument on my page. I can.
I hide this stuff like that. So if I see something that's offending or upsetting, I just click on hide this.
Actually, let's get into that a little bit on the fear spectrum, because what's happening there is somebody's being triggered by fear. Okay, on one hand, somebody's triggered by fear by people having an AK-47 or AK whatever it is, an AK gun. Okay, and I grew up with guns, so, but on the other hand, you've got somebody who's afraid of having their rights taken away.
Right.
So you've got a dichotomy of fear that's coming down to this nexus, that if we do our inner work, so this is prime example that if we do our inner work, that the problems that we see on the outside world will not be as detrimental as they are.
Exactly.
You know?
And we need to get out of that, because that's where, you know, we got both sides. You got one side this, and one side, oh, our rights will be taken away. We need our guns because they're going to take our guns away. This is all fear again, you know? And it's like, just, you know, I hide the pages that do that because I don't want.
And the problem with that is that what creates those fears is that division aspect. You know, trying to divide, you know, and to say you against this or this against that, and it's not that way. You know, it's yes, two polar ends of a certain topic, but that topic is so much broader than those two ends that are being pointed out. They're only a small part of it.
I just wish that we didn't have any weapons whatsoever, period. I mean, I don't have anything against guns, okay? Mind you, I don't. But if we didn't have any weapons at all, we wouldn't have to worry about any of this shit, and two different sides and all this stuff. It's because somebody else has power and the other ones don't. They want to protect, and it's all this whole fear thing, and it just gets worse and worse. And we need to come together as one. And when I was, even to this day, and I know you guys might think I'm really crazy, but every time, you know, birthday came around, I had to do my wish. I always wished for world peace, always. Always, as a child to this day. There was nothing I wanted for myself. I just wanted world peace. And that's what I think ultimately God or the divine being wants for us.
But do you realize that in order to have world peace, we need to get that peace within?
Exactly.
So regardless of whether somebody else has a certain kind of gun, in their closet, in their safe, wherever, if there's inner peace, there'll be no reason for that except for target practice.
Look at the Dalai Lama. He's very calm no matter what. You know, he doesn't get riled up. I'd like to be in that type of state, you know, and it takes a lot to do that. And I keep thinking, I don't want to meditate all my life, you know, but he is in that perfect mode where he knows that it's just words, and he knows that, you know, all these things, and he knows so much, but it just
I was just gonna say what that taught me was that I don't really go into those areas anymore, particularly. Like I kind of changed my focus. Like I don't get very political when I do posts. I usually share joy. I share about what I do. I share about the things I love and the things that I highlight. So I mean, more of my posts are, oh, look at this beautiful thing that we're grateful for, you know, like all those things. And I don't get, you know, a lot of that. And I think the one time that I stepped over into something that is a hot topic or is divisive, when I jumped into the divisiveness, that's when I got that immediate reaction and that confrontation.
Yeah. You know, that happened to me one time too. I posted something. It was on a forum, and they were belittling me. It was like a troll person. They're belittling me. Well, you said this and you said that, and blah, blah, and they're nitpicking, and I'm very sensitive to that stuff. So I just kind of got out of it. And my husband goes, well, that's the problem with you. You just give up too quick. I'm like, well, if someone's putting me down, I mean, you know, but you're right. We do have to stand up for ourselves in certain instances. And yes, we do have to face our fears, and we have to look within. I think those are the main things that we need to.
There's a difference between standing up for yourself in fear and then standing up for yourself because you know who you are.
Exactly.
What you deserve. So I think, you know, when you deal with those inner judgments, those inner fears, and then you can stand up, you're standing up then from a place of power, and you are more effective. And go ahead, Emmanuel.
Oh, I was just saying, removing yourself from the situation isn't escaping it or isn't running away from it. You're taking the power to say, I'm not going to take this abuse, and I'm not going to be a part of that.
Right.
I mean, I had someone that I was trying to post something, and I wasn't paying attention to the picture that I posted. I thought it was okay, and I just kind of went with it, and I made it public, and I was doing it from the business standpoint. and someone went off saying that I was praying like Jesus and all this, and was making it very derogatory.
I think that those are trolls, to be honest with
Well,
you. I read things and I
let me-
think some of these people are saying the stupidest, outwardly things.
let me finish though. Like, so what I realized, and I didn't go crazy about it, but I deleted it, and I said, and I thought about it, and I looked at it, and I said, well, I looked at the picture, and I'm like, it could be taken this way. It could be, so I, like others in my profession, need to really look at the image that I'm putting out, what I'm saying, be very, very thoughtful, use my pendulum, know that it's of the right vibration and not rush into doing something. Because when I've done that, I haven't got the negative responses, so I think that was a little lesson for me to be thoughtful and mindful about what I'm putting out.
Yeah.
That it's got the right look, the right vibration, the right, things. The only other time on my website I got a very strange review was by someone that lied about me being somewhere, didn't use my name appropriately, but it put a horrible rating on my business page, and Facebook will not remove anything. Mm-hmm. So at that point I had to redo the page and start over. Well, that it can happen, but
have you noticed that recently? I don't know, and it's just I've forwarded posts, and some things were deleted. I had a friend that posted to me, and he says, "Oh, look at this video before it's deleted." I looked on it; it was already gone. So I've noticed that Facebook has been very forthright in choosing what should be posted and what shouldn't be posted. So whatever they don't want out there, they don't want the public to know, they'll block it. And it's sad because there's no freedom there for people then in that sense. So they want you to post whatever the narrative or whatever their thing is.
That's not going to, I don't believe that that's going to happen for much longer, because I mean, we are going to have to stand up for it. And I think a lot of us who are awakening are standing up for what is considered integrity based, and coming from, the unconditional love, allowing everybody to be able to walk their journeys, having the freedoms that they need to be able to do that. But when we are, there was a post that I participated in too that really brought some stuff down on me, and I had a fear of having that negative retaliation coming back to me because of me. And I wasn't even saying anything really bad or anything one side or the other side. It was just contrary to what the news was saying. And I posted a video of a couple of doctors who went through what their numbers were on what the COVID reality was, and it's very different than what what MSM is saying. And I got some pretty bad backlash on that from one of the places I posted it, and it was like, at first I'm not gonna, I was afraid to post it because of that backlash.
Yeah. Well, look, you know what? Here's the other thing too is like yesterday, Dave and I were talking to you and we were saying, oh yeah, and people are going to the beaches and stuff. And that's because we were looking at a photo and it looked like the beach was crowded. Well, come to find out that photo is years old. Okay.
Well, there's a lot of that happening.
It wasn't even how the beaches looked that day.
True,
okay?
True. But
so this is
what I'm getting out of what I was saying is that what I ended up having to do is I had to put myself out there, put that post out there, because it was the truth. It's what they're experiencing on the front lines. These are the numbers. These are their findings here on the West Coast. And the backlash, I had to look at the backlash, instead of it being a scary thing or being afraid of it, as an opportunity. An opportunity to constructively offer up a different narrative. Yeah. Offer up something that's different.
Yeah.
Something that gives us better options.
Yeah.
And so once I looked at it as that, then it empowered me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so that again gets to the point where, hey, don't watch the news, because the news is not your friend. I'm sorry, but unfortunately there are some controls in place, and so they will show what they have been told to show, and that's why you're only getting the negative stuff and not the positive stuff about all this stuff. And we're here to tell you that there is some positive stuff. Not everybody is dying from this disease. Not every, that there are, there's so many different things. I've heard about different cures and this, that, and the other. It's like, who's right, who's wrong, and so many people, you don't know if that person's the good guy or the bad
we
guy.
have, I don't know if you've ever watched, okay, this is another thing that some of our listeners can look into, is the memory of water. Water, the memory of water is a science experiment from, I can't remember.
What the
It's a Japanese guy, right?
That one too. That one is another one. Yeah, it's a Japanese guy. Something Moto. I can't remember his name right now.
Yeah.
But and we've done this experiment through our homeschooling too, where you take 2 jars of rice, put water in it, and then I put love on one jar and put hate on the other jar. And the one that was hate started growing old way faster than the one that had love on it. Our words are everything we speak through our mouth. Our words mean an awful lot, and so we can create that. Also, too, Bruce Lipton has he's got the biology of what is it?
Plants.
People. It's like the biology of our health, or I can't remember what it's called. I just lost it. I had it in my head way earlier, but where we have control to reprogram our DNA with our thoughts, with our intentions. We can intend ourselves to be well. What is it that what is it that we are holding us back? Those limiting beliefs, those things that are keeping us in the fear, keeping us in the judgment.
Yeah. So the people that are out there are always, oh, this hurts and that hurts, to say, I deserve to be healthy. When I was sick and I had that, I kept saying, I deserve to be healthy. I deserve to be healthy. I deserve to be healthy. And yes, you do deserve to be healthy. You can speak that way because you do. You are a light being, and you are a divine being. And, we deserve to be healthy, and we can't let the people that are putting us down and all this stuff, like that experiment, I saw the kids were doing that in school with the two plants, and the kids would come in every day and yell at one, and the other one they'd send it love. Well, guess which plant lived? The one that had love. The other one that was yelled at turned brown, and it was made out of energy, and it ended up dying because of all the hate. And that's what we do to ourselves. We let these things absorb in us. When you're in abusive relationships, you start thinking that you're what they're calling you. And I went through that stage. I'd be curled up in the closet by myself, and just so upset with myself and punching walls because I was so hateful of myself and what I was. And I realized it wasn't me, and we got to realize that we can't let all this other stuff control us. We are in charge of ourselves. We are the ones, and you are a powerful being, and you are loved. Every one of you are loved, and every one of you deserves to have a beautiful life. And that's why we're here, and those that do bad, and I just want to say something bad, I'll just say karma's going to get you. It's not me, but karma will, because, what comes around goes around. And also, whatever you do to one person, you're doing to others as you would have them doing to you. Well, that comes around, goes around. I mean, all this stuff all makes sense, even in the Bible with the law of attraction or all this, everything. So we just got to understand that karma plays a big role. And, we got to realize that we may not be able to do anything about it, but we know that, something else will. I mean, there are divine invisible forces out there that are watching us, and they know what we're going through, and they will make sure things happen. And then that would be like, a force beyond us. We could be God or a divine force. Like I said, maybe somebody intended this whole thing to be something it didn't turn out to be, but in the long run, it made us all look inward, and it made us all go, wait a second here. We woke up like, wait a second. Hey, and maybe the powers that be that, or if there are a power, or the bad ones, the power of me that wanted this to go sideways, finally like, oh, wait a second, it woke people up. It wasn't supposed to do that.
Yeah.
But
I think a part of us allowed that to happen because we were lazy on dealing with things that we needed to deal with. But we've had a really good conversation on the many different aspects of fear. I think people who've followed this, we're going on 2 hours now, so I'm going to try to close this up a
wow.
little bit. And I think this is something that's going to, if people can go through it and hang with us, I think we have enough here to where we can relate with a lot of different people. And that if we can focus, though, instead of getting caught up in other people's narratives, learn to recognize our fear, learn to do the inner work to find out where it's going from, whether you do that from an energetic standpoint, whether you do that from an emotional, mental, or psychological standpoint, any of those ways, as long as you're doing what you need to do in order to take care of your inner journey, we're going to affect that change that's on the outer world. So whatever's being out there in the world doesn't matter right now, that we need to do that inner work. And you're right, Laura, about everybody. There's millions of people right now who are awakening to this, and they're doing that inner work because they have no choice.
Yes.
They have no choice. And it's not quite the rude awakening yet. We're in the great awakening. There are going to be a few of those people who are going to be left at the end that are going to have that rude awakening. But those of us who've already worked on some of this are the predecessors to help those who are currently going through it. And what I'd like to do, though, here in our closing thoughts is for each of us to kind of take our turns to kind of say what we'd like to finalize our closing thoughts for everyone to come away with this. And then we'll say goodbye to everybody. Does that sound good?
Sounds good.
Okay, I'd like Emmanuel to go first if we could, and then we'll just kind of go around that way.
And you were saying closing thoughts on how we deal with fear and what we learn and so forth?
Yeah, kind of what we want to leave for our readers.
Oh, okay. Well, I hope that everyone, what they can get out of this the most is that we are powerful beings with our thoughts and our intentions and our energy, and that there's so much more accessible to each and every one of us. And I've had people question me like, how do you think you can teach it? How can everyone do Reiki? How can everyone do this? How can everyone do that? And what I want people to know is that from our design, from our genetics, from every point, we're connected to all the planets, we're connected to the universe, and there's infinite potential within every single person. And so whatever your passion is, and I've had people learn Reiki, but then they decided to, make this beautiful restaurant that people enjoy the food and they love, and they create, it's like, you don't have to go and you don't have to go and repopulate the forest and the rainforest. You don't have to, it could be just creating a beautiful space or offer beautiful services or do anything. But I think we all have this passion and we all have these gifts to give to the world. And so however you start on your inner path, it does have to start with healing yourself and learning what you're supposed to learn, and then going, okay, how can I help others? How can I help society? How can I share my experience?
That's
I love that. I love it. What about you, Laura?
With me, I'd just like to say that all of you are of love and light, and that, yes, you are powerful beings, and that you are loved no matter what. Just know that you are loved, and that you do have to look within. And once you change, and also when you're going through an awakening, a lot of people I've noticed have questioned, why does it hurt so much to awaken? Why do I have to go through all this pain? Well, that's part of it. You have to go through the pain and deal with all the stuff in order to wake up. Because waking up is taking off the blinders and realizing who you truly, truly, truly are, why you were here. It kind of takes you back to realizing why you were here and what you can do to help. Whether it be having a restaurant, building houses, whether it's, visiting a friend, being a caregiver, whatever it is, we all have to help one another in some way, shape, or form. If we're only helping ourselves, we're not helping others, and that we're not doing what our path is, our life purpose is. So that's part of all I want to say is that, you have the power, live your life purpose, and know that you're truly loved.
That's great. That's awesome. Yeah, if we can focus on instead of paying attention to what everyone else's narrative is, create our own, then we can learn to tap into what that purpose is. And like you said, there's so many things that are right now, instead of getting caught up into the fear of things, start recognizing the opportunities. Because right in times like this,
Yes.
there are a lot of opportunities. There is a lot of opportunities for us to fill in those voids, to figure out what our purpose is, and actually seat ourselves in those places and benefit the whole world because of it, and mankind. And I want to thank you guys for coming on today and being willing to discuss this and share this with us. And I want to thank anybody who is going to be listening to this in the future. Feel free, I'll be putting links to each one of our connections, Emmanuel's website and Facebook page, as well as mine for Inner Sage, and Laura has Path of the Dragonfly and Awakening Perspectives as well. So we're going to be putting that on
insight2awareness.com.
and that one too. Yes, Insight to Awareness. And then we're going to, we'll put that on the bottom. So if you have any questions and want to contact us personally or looking for any services and stuff, you're welcome to do that. But I just want to say again, thank you, and we'll chat with you soon.
All right. Thank you very much.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you.
Bye.
Bye.